Hey everybody, Lou Santiago for GarageInsiderTV.com. Now you're probably wondering what I got going on here with our 69 Chevelle chassis. This is what's happening. I put it on the table, I run this string, and that string goes down the center of the frame table. What that does for me is I can square the chassis up and it's equal distance on both sides. So when I put everything in, it's symmetrical. Up front, I've got these stanchions to hold the front end, and I'm going to tack those in place as soon as we get done with this. Once those are tacked in place, you move to the middle of the chassis, you see these pieces of box tubing. I'm going to anchor the chassis down to the tubing by tacking it in place. That way, the chassis doesn't move. In back, there's no stanchions, but I'm going to put stanchions on the back. I just haven't gotten there yet, and I just wanted to, let you guys know what's going on. Now, these pieces of tubing are 5-inch square. That's going to be the ride height of the car. That's where it's going to live. So everything has to live above that. The exhaust, the transmission, the oil pan for the engine. Everything's got to make sure that it's above that. That way when you look under the car, it's basically flat because nothing's hanging down low. I can't stand a car that when you're coming up on it at the show and you see these headers hanging down and they're 2 inches off the ground. It just doesn't look good. So this is how I build a car. Now, you're probably wondering why I have this yellow tape here. The reason for the tape is these chassis over the years, even when they were new, I should say, they twisted a lot because the only thing in the middle was the transmission cross member. So what I'm going to do is make this my new cross member and build a lattice system where all this is bracing. This is all going to be tubing, and then you'll have tubing going like this connecting to the chassis. And of course, the chassis will be boxed. So the first thing I'll do is I'll put in the boxing, and then I'll do the lattice work. And what that'll do for me is it will tie the car together. It'll make the frame rigid, which makes it a better car, because if you ever decide to get on it and launch, you want the car to launch and go straight. And there you have it. All right, so I know in the past I've said that I'm going to box this frame, and that's fine and dandy. I'm still going to do that. But I got to thinking. I also realized, you know what? I need to fill these holes first. So before I box it, I got to fill the holes. So the way you do that is yeah, you can, if you can weld good enough, you can fill it just with nothing back there. I've seen guys take pieces of steel, put them back there, and then they're good to go. But something that a lot of guys don't know, and a lot of these guys, not that it's a bad thing, they just don't weld a lot. So they don't know. They don't have that knowledge base that other guys have. You can use a piece of aluminum or copper or brass because it'll conduct electricity, but it won't, the weld won't stick to it. So what you do is you just put it on the backside like that. And then once it's on the backside, oh wait, before I do that, I got to turn on my shield. It's kind of important. I don't want to wake up the next morning and feel like someone dumped sand in my eyes. So make sure your shield is on. Make sure it's secure. So back to where we were. We put our piece of aluminum right behind the hole and just burn it in. Now, oh, missed a little spot there. Now, the aluminum is stuck to it because it actually adhered to it a little bit. But all you gotta do is bust it off. And now that hole is filled. So your next step would be is to grind it. What you can do is you could do a couple of different things. What you could do is fill all the holes in one shot and then do your grinding. But that would take a while. It's not a big deal, I'm gonna do it anyway, but I really wanna show you guys the grinding piece to this. Because what I've learned over the years, and honestly, Jared taught me this years ago, how to grind. You got to be careful when you're grinding, because it's important to know that grinding, this part of the wheel does the most work, all right? It doesn't matter where you're at on the wheel, but it's always about a quarter of it does the most work. So when you grind, you want to hold it like this, and you have to be careful when you're grinding, because if you use a rock, you can gouge the material. And you've all seen it before where there's these lines, and you can see that the metal is actually lower when it's been painted. And that's what you don't want to do. You want to try and make it look like the thing was never ground down. So I'm going to change my shield to grind. That's a cut. Let me take off my glove, it's easier. All right, so I've got my welding shield on grind, so I can wear my shield, not have to worry about it going dark. And I'm gonna show you, you read how it's grinding. Now watch. Okay, as you can see, I was going from left to right. And you can see the lines in the metal going across. So I went that way 4 or 5 times. Now, I'll go again, but I'll go straight up and down. See, now you can see the lines going this way, right? Before I had it at a bit of an angle. So now I'm gonna go See, what you're doing is, if you notice, I've done it 3 different times. I'm waiting till I get rid of the previous grinding marks. If you look at it now, all the grinding marks from when I went vertically are gone. Now all of them are going this way. But what it's telling you is, you see right here, it's about flush. Here, it's a little low. It's not that it's low in the sense that I got to gouge it, but it means that I need to pay attention to this area here as well as this, because this I know is really close down here. Up here it's a little high. So the next thing I do is change my direction. See, now, as you can see, it's just about flush. There's one little line right there. But for the most part, you can't even feel that it's been welded. That's how you want to grind. Because what that does for you is it saves you doing body work on the frame. Everybody's seen it. You can see where they ground down on a weld, where they're just vertical. And then there's a dip there. You're trying to avoid that dip. This way you totally avoid it. Something else that you need to keep in mind when you're doing this, you don't want to stop in the same place. If you go short strokes, that's fine. But remember, the next time you come back to it, go a little bit longer, because you can create dips on the side from when you stop and go back. Because you got to remember, for a split second, you stopped right there. That's why you want to kind of change your strokes so you don't get those dips on the side. You do that to every one of them after you weld them up, and your chassis will be nice and smooth. And then when you blast it or paint it, it's going to be minimal work to clean it up. There might be a couple spots like that, but you're fine. And that's how you grind. So I'm going to do another one. Actually, I'm going to change my wheel. I'll change the wheel and weld up another hole. Look at that. Now that came out good. All right, so remember, click, subscribe, hit the bell, do what you got to do. I need viewers. Make it happen, people. All right, go to work. Go.